We're having a celebration ourselves to salute the Long Island Barrens Society.
Okay, so once again, I'll just remind you, we're asking the speakers to stick to a 3-minute limit. I know all of us could probably stand up here for at least a half an hour each and reminisce about what's gotten us to this point.
This is a historic moment, a perfect day, by the way. Thank you, Fred, for ordering this up in the recent state budget. The arc of history is something we should think about at this time. 30 years since the passage of the Act, and at least 20 before that, gathering information that led to state legislation. If we were to write a book, we'd probably have a first chapter about the rediscovery of the Pine Barrens, and then the next chapter would be the confrontation to save it so that it could be studied. The next chapter would be the involvement of government at the local and state level and the creation of this extraordinary reserve. And it brings us to today. As we stand here and look forward, we're still fighting to preserve. We're still fighting against bad practices and policies. I suppose that's always going to be part of what has to happen.
It is a time, certainly, for us to reflect on the accomplishment of preserving the Pine Barrens. 100,000 acres, 50,000 acres in the core preservation area, an incredible accomplishment. There's a lesson to be learned from this triumph and this accomplishment for the future. To protect the Central Pine Barrens took the business community, local government, the environmental community on a bipartisan basis, all coming together for one purpose, and that was to protect the Pine Barrens.
Thank you for your efforts. It paid dividends. I was in office when Mario Cuomo signed the Pine Barrens into law. I was here over at South Haven Park when Governor Pataki came, as was my colleagues, Fred and my good friend Steve, and of course our county controller. We were all here at the creation, and for the last 11 years I've served as a commissioner of the Pine Barrens Society. I cannot think of anything that sets this county apart but its desire to save its underground aquifer, its desire to preserve.
We bought tens of thousands of acres. Hampton Hills. Hampton Hills. Where is that? It's right in the middle. You know where it is. He used to walk around with this map, and every time there'd be a big acquisition, you put the piece in. And I'll never forget that press conference with you, and we announced that Hampton Hills, which was the heart of the core of the Pine Barrens, was preserved. And Dick Amber was there with his big map, whatever you call it. My wife is into this stuff. We have puzzles and all that. And she puts it right in there. And that we announced on Earth Day. And Newsday had a front page story that said, "This land is our land."
The state legislature this year approved a bill called the Suffolk County Water Quality Restoration Act, which would allow voters in Suffolk County this fall to decide whether to add an eighth of a penny of sales tax dedicated to clean water infrastructure moving forward. It's an exciting year. It will finish the job of protecting drinking water moving forward. I want to express my appreciation to the Pine Barrens Society for the continued advocacy and point out that in addition to providing funds for clean drinking water, the ballot measure we're advancing this year would also provide $1.9 billion in new funding for open space preservation.
Dick Amper is a guy who came from nowhere as far as I knew, but he was a very truthful, maybe the most truthful person I've ever met.
Thank you all for coming to this 30th anniversary celebration. I remember the 20th one, it seemed like only yesterday. I'm more than proud to stand with all of you I wanted to address everybody in the audience who's under 30, particularly, because in 30 more years, you're going to look like us. And in that time, I'm hoping that you will get involved with efforts like this one, or related efforts, there are many of them out there, and make your own mark on the world that you live in.
I am encouraged to see so many young people here today because this now is your task. This now is your charge. Because when the torch is passed and it's time for you to step up, you have standing on the shoulders of giants here. But without your continued effort, without your continued energy, and without your continued advocacy, we lose what we have and we can't save the best of the rest. Through my work with the Pine Barrens Society, I had a chance to meet a woman who I know is looking down on us here today, Robin Amper. And Robin was a critical player in the society and throughout these last couple decades. And there's a scholarship that's been set up through the Pine Barrens Society, and I'm honored to be a part of that, because we need the next generation. And we need you to be involved, and we need your passion and care for this special place.
Young people here, you are the future. You need to pick up this ball and keep moving it forward. There's still a lot of work to do. We still have to save the rest.
This year, the Long Island Pine Barrens Society hosts its newest iteration of our Middle School Kids Go to College program, graciously made possible by the National Grid Foundation. Since the program first launched, we've been proud to support our local students by offering them the opportunity to research and present their own projects on water-related issues across Long Island. This year was especially exciting for us as it was the first time since the beginning of the COVID-19 pandemic that we've been able to have our event almost entirely in person. As such, rather than hosting a Zoom call for our awards and presentations, students were able to attend a special lecture from Dr. Christopher Gobler in person at Stony Brook University. There, the students were treated to a world-class presentation on water quality and pollution, before getting to present their own project to Dr. Gobler and the Pine Barrens Society staff. Having so many students get to experience a university campus and lecture is just one of the facets of the program, though. And after this fantastic event, the Pine Barrens Society staff visited 3 more schools individually, allowing us a more personal look at the projects the students were able to put together. Every project we saw was a marvel in student ingenuity, and more than a few surprised even our executive director, Dick Amper, with their thoroughness. Having students learn about the importance of water on Long Island, in addition to the threats posed to it, is one of the most important things our organization does, and ensures that the next generation will grow up being more aware not just of where their water comes from, but of what it takes to protect it. This year was hardly what you would call a return to form, though, as even online, the Middle School Kids Go to College event was a wildly successful program that achieved the same goals of bringing young students into a university environment to learn about topics they would otherwise lack exposure to. Though it's nonetheless a treat to see such a wildly successful return to an in-person event after so many years online. And one particular benefit of being back in person that we haven't been able to cover here was getting to present our students with their awards face-to-face. And this year especially, we got to put on quite a show at our 30th anniversary celebration of the Pine Barrens Protection Act, though you'll get to see plenty from that event soon enough. And once again, this program and all it offered, over 100 students this year and over 1,000 students since its inception, was only made possible with the generous support of the National Grid Foundation. We thank you once again, not just for your support of the next generation of environmentalists, but of your continued support of our mission to protect land and clean water across Long Island.
We want to now recognize those students who went above and beyond. So students, when you hear your name called, please come forward and accept a certificate. Dick, would you like to help me give out the certificates? Okay, please come up here. Sloan Coulter. And if you turn around, Sloan, someone will take your picture. Okay. Okay. Next, Juliana Nip. Woo!
It's nice to be young and beautiful, right?
Patrick Halpin.
Is that Patrick Halpin? You got it. Congratulations.
John Turner, another founder of the Pine Barrens Society.
Thank you, Tom. Hello, everybody. Thank you so very much for, hey, Jane, how are you? Coming out today. We very much appreciate you celebrating the 30th anniversary of our efforts to preserve the Pine Barrens, a place that we like to call Long Island Central Park. And I think that you're going to find as the decades go on, the Pine Barrens will be viewed more and more as a Central Park. The Pine Barrens Protection Act was passed into law to purchase land. Government at all levels, from the town of Brookhaven, Riverhead, and Southampton, through Suffolk County's wonderful land acquisition programs, state DEC, State Office of Parks and Recreation, anyway, have collectively worked and coordinated together to buy land, and have done a remarkable job, to the point that where you can now walk. I want you to just think about this. On an island with 2.7 million residents in Nassau and Suffolk County alone, you can walk from Rocky Point all the way to Hampton Bays. The Best of the Rest program consists of approximately 15 parcels that are found throughout the Pine Barrens, in the 3 towns of Brookhaven, Riverhead, and Southampton. And if these parcels, specific parcels, are acquired, will really pretty much complete the job of land acquisition, connect the final areas that need to be linked together, or filling the hole in the donut, that sort of thing. From an ecological perspective, scientists tell us coherency is good. You want a big block of land when you can do that. And that's what we've been trying to do again over the past 30 years. And what the Best of the Rest has kind of underpinning it is this belief of just trying to kind of flesh out and make sure that we connect the wild lands for the benefit, again, of hiking opportunities, land management, as well as for being able to allow species to be able to move back and forth. So to make a point that 2 major targets of Best of the Rest within the Pine Barrens are the 2 river systems, the Carmen's River and the Peconic River. The watershed is largely intact because we have places where you've just got beautiful forest land. The water that infiltrates and eventually discharges into the river is going to be pure. And the water in the Carmen's River is still remarkably good shape, and same with the Peconic. So those are 2 target areas, and you can see the species that would benefit if these additional lands are acquired that kind of can finish out the greenbelt along the Carmen's, and the same thing along the Peconic.
Well, thank you for joining us this year. Be sure and stay tuned to view our silent auction offerings. We have items ranging from Costco gift certificates to a night out with New York's Philharmonic. Enjoy.